Playing positive correlation plays on PrizePicks for MLB is an absolute moneymaker, and you must be doing this if you want to profit playing MLB. In short, correlation is as simple as this. If X happens, Y and Z are also likely to happen. For a super simple example, let's use the NFL. If Patrick Mahomes was to go over pass yards, it's likely that Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy were to be going over receiving yards as well. I mean, this isn't rocket science. Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy are two of the top targets for Patrick Mahomes, and typically their receiving yards projections on the sportsbooks are the highest out of the wide receivers for Kansas City. Look, I know Travis Kelce isn't a wide receiver, he's a tight end. Don't flame me, I should have said pass catchers in the last clip. My bad. But really, the thing about positive correlation is that the sportsbooks actually hate it because it gives us, the users, the customers, an edge against the sportsbooks when we're able to play positive correlation. So they do everything in their power to combat this. Sometimes they don't even let you combine certain plays together, but then also, if they do let you combine positive correlation, oftentimes they're going to reduce your payout to where it's really not even worth playing. However, with PrizePicks, you're able to find positively correlated plays and play them together in certain slip types where they're not actually reducing your payout, so you're still getting that edge in a hell of a lot bigger payout than what you would be getting if you played it on the sportsbooks. This is very much in part to PrizePicks not changing your payouts for whether you take an over or an under on these player props. And now, for MLB positive correlation, it's pretty simple, but can get more complicated if you wanted to make it. Now, it is as easy as taking pitchers' unders and then the opposing team taking batters' overs against that pitcher, or vice versa. For whatever reason, PrizePicks doesn't care too much about us playing positive correlation when it comes to 4-man powers. But if you were trying to have positive correlation in a 5 or 6-man flex, a lot of times you're going to see a payout shift, so it wouldn't be worth it. So almost every single positive correlation build is going to come in 4-man powers. Now just check out this insane positive correlation I found in this 4-man power on PrizePicks for the MLB. As you can see here, I'm starting off by taking Bailey Ober under 31.5 pitcher fantasy score. If he's going under fantasy score, that means he's probably getting rocked by the other team, letting them score a few runs, get some hits against them, maybe even walking them, not getting a win, not getting a quality start, something of that nature to add up to him going under pitcher fantasy score. So it's very positively correlated if we take some overs on the opposing team for the hitters. So we took Steven Kwan over singles, which has some good value via the sportsbooks itself. Same thing with Jose Ramirez over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. If both of these guys are getting on base and scoring runs, that means that he is losing pitcher fantasy score, so more likely to go under pitcher fantasy score. Not only that, we were able to add in Gavin Williams over 5.5 pitcher strikeouts, which is the pitcher for the Guardians, adding in even more positive correlation. And that's because if he's going over 5.5 pitching strikeouts, that means he's probably pitching a pretty solid game. Not only that, but we're also thinking that he is getting some offensive backup here, so he's probably in line to get a win over Bailey Ober, which means if Bailey Ober doesn't get a win, and maybe he doesn't go 6 innings and get that quality start, that's less fantasy score that he could be getting, so that makes it super correlated with this. But as you can see here, we're not receiving a payout shift for including all of this positive correlation, which is mind-boggling. We're able to play this on PrizePicks and why you should be taking advantage of this. But just to show you, whether we take under or over on any of these player props, our payout is going to stay the same, unlike if you were trying to play this on the sportsbooks. As you can see, here I am on DraftKings trying to enter in pretty much the same exact play. I got as close as I could at least. I took Gavin Williams over 5.5 strikeouts thrown. I took Steven Kwan to get a single, Jose Ramirez over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, and then we also took Bailey Ober under 17.5 pitching outs, which means he wouldn't get a quality start, so that was as close as I could get since DraftKings doesn't actually have fantasy score projections, and it says right here, sorry, unfortunately your picks cannot be parlayed, which means there is good positive correlation in this slip, and they don't want users playing it against them. And while this isn't the exact same slip I was just talking about, it's just to show you that the sportsbooks really care about positive and negative correlation when you're trying to enter in plays. As you can see here, I took Will Warren under 4.5 strikeouts, and then these 3 guys to get a hit, which would be positively correlated, because if he's going under 4.5 strikeouts, it means that these guys are having more opportunities to get a hit. So they gave us plus 382 odds, which means $100 to win 382. However, if we took this as some negative correlation, we took Will Warren over 4.5 strikeouts, and then each of these guys to get a hit, which is negatively correlated because if he's striking out 5 guys, probably striking out one or two of these guys at least once, and that means less opportunities for them to get a hit. $100 would win us $573 because it's negatively correlated and less likely to happen. Now, I will say it is pretty random for when they decide to payout shift and when they don't. For instance, I have JP Sears here, the Athletics pitcher, under 4.5 pitcher strikeouts, and then we took some overs for the Rangers hitters. Marcus Semien over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, Berger over hits, runs, RBIs, and then Adolis Garcia over 0.5 runs, which, as you can see, they have payout shifted to this to 8.5x. So no longer a 10x like a normal 4-pick power, they've shifted it. That's because PrizePicks believes the correlation is so strong, it gives the user an edge when they're getting a 10x payout compared to 8.5x. We don't want to play this if it's payout shifted. So in order to dodge this payout shift and find a 10x payout for this 4-man power, you're just going to have to play with it. Find where else you can find some positive correlation with this lineup, or you can even just take out Adolis Garcia if you want and find one other play that is good value and throw it into your slip. Let's just go ahead and toss in a Ruiz, who is in a total different game, but we're still getting 3 legs of super heavy positive correlation in this slip, and then another play that is very good value at 10x payout. When I'm trying to find positive correlation or one-off plays, I start here on Daily Grind Fantasy, which is a website that helps you compare sportsbooks lines and odds directly back to PrizePicks and other different apps to find the best possible value. For instance, I simply loaded up the optimizer of Daily Grind Fantasy, seen that Bailey Ober was favored to go under 31.5 pitcher fantasy score when comparing to DraftKings and Bovada. Although those two sportsbooks don't have fantasy score markets, this is basing it off of all of the pitcher props that make up pitcher fantasy score on PrizePicks and what the projection would be at these sportsbooks. So this was about 2 full fantasy score off from where PrizePicks is at. So like I said, good value. But I started there with Bailey Ober, and then from there I found some players on the opposing team that are hitters and seeing where there was some value on their overs to go ahead and start building my correlation slip. I mean, this really does make it easy to find correlated plays. I searched up Guardians off the optimizer and it showed me all of the best valued plays for Guardians players. For instance, we had Jose Ramirez over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in that mock slip. Well, he's pretty favored over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs across major sportsbooks with almost a 53% chance to hit on its own. But adding that in with our positive correlation and taking the under of Bailey Ober's pitcher fantasy score, this has a much better chance to hit than what this actually is played by itself. Even Gavin Williams, a 54% chance to hit right now, over 5.5 strikeouts. The entire sportsbook market is favoring this to go over at minus 135 odds, and that's not even counting our correlation and what it's going to add to Bailey Ober's under either. If you guys do want to sign up for Daily Grind Fantasy and use it to help you find correlated plays or just the best value plays across the entire PrizePicks board, I'll leave a link down in the description. But if you use code DustinDGF37, you'll get 25% off your very first month. Now, when playing positive correlation, it is important that you understand if Bailey Ober goes under, that does not guarantee that the rest of these are supposed to hit. It's simply the fact that these are more likely to hit if that is to happen. Gaining an edge on PrizePicks or any other sportsbook or DFS app for that matter is all about trying to give yourself a better chance to win than what the odds you are playing it at implies. Even if you can find some positive correlation just like this, taking 2 separate pairs that have nothing to do with each other but are positively correlated as pairs. For instance, CJ Abrams and James Wood over hitter fantasy score. If Abrams gets on and James Wood hits him in, he gets a hit and a run, he gets a hit and an RBI, thus helping them go over hitter fantasy score. Same thing here with Lindor and Juan Soto. Lindor bats in front of Soto. If he gets on, gets hit in by Soto, it contributes to both of them going over hitter fantasy score. We're still getting a 10x payout, as I mentioned. But check this out. If we try to get a little greedy and add in one more play of positive correlation, like Pete Alonso over fantasy score to add to our Mets stack, well, we're going to go ahead and get a payout shift in this 5-man flex like I mentioned earlier. We'd only be getting a 7x payout instead of the normal 10x payout for 5-man flexes. So if we take that out, we're able to run without a payout shift. And I mean, here's one more. I loaded up the optimizer. I seen that Nick Martinez under fantasy score was favored again by about 2 fantasy score off from the market. So I looked up the opposing team's hitters and tried to find some value there to correlate with it. So we looked up Cardinals. Brendan Donovan was the first one with the best value, over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. I tried to parlay it with Nolan Arenado, but it was causing me a payout shift. So I scrolled down a little bit and found Wilson Contreras over singles. So I added that into the slip, and then just took another good value play with Steph Curry over 10.5 rebounds and assists off the optimizer for the NBA, and we dodged the payout shift. So we have 3 legs of correlation, one with decent value off the optimizer, and a 10x payout. Finding correlation across most sports is pretty simple in itself, but using the optimizer to find plays that already have good value and are favored on the sportsbooks that you can get in as correlation in your slips make it that much better. The bigger the edge you consistently get against the books, the more money you're gonna win over the long term. Simply, the tool just makes it a little bit easier to find what is the best value to start and build out your correlation slips instead of just throwing a blind dart at what you think is good value or correlation. For instance, you could be parlaying something that doesn't have a very good chance to hit, which means you're lessening your edge. You want to have the biggest edge possible. Now that is going to be it for this video. If you have any other further questions, drop them down in the comments and I will answer them. But if you enjoyed this video and or learned something, make sure you leave a like. And don't forget the subscribe button on the way out as we post sports betting content like this every single week.